What do you think of when you think of work? In many ways, that's really what this class is all about. All the different ways we can view work and the way it impacts individuals who are doing it. In this module, we'll explore several topics that represent different perspectives on work. Each of the graphics I selected for this slide represent those topics or the overall idea in a few ways. Before you move on, you might pause the recording to look at the graphics more closely. Over time, psychologists have made a number of points about work. For example, Freud said the healthy life is filled by love and by work. We can question some of Freud's points, but this idea does fit with the research. Similarly, Erikson's theory of life stages suggests work plays an important role in how we feel about our lives. Freud and Erikson were thinking about work in the context of well-being and development. Other psychologists are more focused on work and think of it as the context for other topics. The related subfield of psychology is called industrial and organizational, or IO for short. I sometimes describe IO as being the intersection of psychology and business, with psychology reflecting the part of the definition about principles, theory, and research, and business representing the part about work settings. Part of the reason this class is called Psychology at Work, though, and not IO psychology, is because we'll think about work in a way that's broader than just business-related topics. That said, our focus in this class is on applying knowledge from psychology, so it's important to understand the methods used in psychology, which means being familiar with research. IO is based on the scientist-practitioner model, and we'll be using that perspective. This module includes an overview of 3 research-related ideas that will help you understand research and science. In this module, we'll also consider how using scientific methods influences how we think about work. In other words, how it influences the perspective we take. The scientific method is also used to understand other topics that represent other perspectives. One way to categorize those perspectives is to categorize them in terms of whether they represent something that contributes to what's done or how it's done, how the work is actually done, or the result of that work. In other words, we can ask, do the ideas relate to inputs, to processes, or to outputs? This module includes 2 broad topics that we'll visit in more detail later: motivation and performance. We can classify motivation as an input for work and performance as a result. Another topic in this module, job crafting, relates to the process of doing work, and it includes its separate inputs and results. But where do Freud and Erikson's ideas fit in? It's a good question. There's not a scholarly paper that directly addresses that, but we could speculate the desire for generativity and integrity influences both inputs and processes. Then the results influence how we actually feel. Freud's idea might reflect a similar process. The related concept we'll learn about in this module is good work. The learning resources for this module include readings about several of the topics I mentioned and recordings to help with more details. Collectively, the resources and learning activities were designed to help you meet these goals. The learning goals are also included on the overview page for each module, and you might find they're helpful in helping you decide where to focus. So how do you think each of these graphics represents perspectives on work? When I look at the one on the top left, I think about the idea that we can view work as being about people or about what's produced. And the production is often related to some material outcome. The emphasis on material outcomes sometimes make work seem like a necessary evil, hence the graphic on the bottom left. Work doesn't have to be about material outcomes for the individual doing the work or given the goals of the larger context. That goes with the picture on the right. Work-related experiences are complex, too. Sometimes we need to think about what's not going on to understand what is. That goes with the middle picture on the left.